Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Choose Inclusion for our Black Voices Matter series. I am joined, as usual, by my co-hosts Yubi and Mike. How are you guys doing?
I was gonna let Mike go first.
I was doing the whole age before beauty thing. Sorry, dude. So please.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Welcome.
we're doing pretty good, Nina.
Welcome back, guys.
All right. Well, let's get started and introduce our guest. We're super excited to have here today Kelsea Médard. Kelsea is an attorney and the founder of Grow by Three. We are going to be talking about some really interesting stuff around building generational wealth, what it means to be first gen, the pipeline, the quote unquote pipeline problem that companies are always talking about. And we're really excited to be having this conversation today. So Kelsea, welcome to the podcast. And of course, the first question we always ask our guests is, in the midst of everything happening in the world today, how are you doing?
Well, thank you so much for the introduction and for asking that question, Nina. It's really, really awesome to be here. In terms of how I'm doing today, I would say this is definitely one of the highlights of my afternoon. I think that Mondays are really difficult sometimes. So I'm happy that I'm able to connect with you all. I think that this is going to be an awesome conversation. I'm happy for everyone who's listening to this. So I think that this is really going to boost the day for a lot of people. And that just makes me really happy.
That's awesome. And we're so happy for you to be here today. So I was wondering if we could start off by you just telling us a little bit about your background and your journey.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So I'm originally from the New York area, currently living in Boston, and I went to college at Syracuse University. So even then I was in New York, but that's a little bit more upstate. But I was born and raised in Queens, New York. And when I moved for high school, I moved to Long Island, and it was a very different environment. I was previously around, predominantly people from diverse backgrounds. And then when I got to Long Island, it was a totally different story. When I went to Syracuse, I kind of, felt the experience of being at a predominantly white institution, which I did enjoy. Actually, I enjoyed, the environment. I had a lot of opportunities there. I ended up graduating a year early, and that's when I went on to law school at Boston University School of Law. And that was, law school is difficult, but I think that was also an awesome experience for me because it started to help me think about life differently and really create a new perspective about what's really important in life. So after that, I decided to work for a large law firm in the Boston office. And I did that for a while, and I did enjoy the opportunity. I was happy to have had the chance to get that position as a commercial litigation associate. But then I ultimately realized that I really wanted to get a little bit deeper into helping others in a direct way. So I know during law school and even in undergrad, I started thinking very consciously about mentorship and what that means and how mentorship can lead people to new opportunities and how it can just increase education for so many people on various different topics. And so that's when I started moving farther and farther into the lane of figuring out what I could do to provide sort of direct service to other people in ways that'll help them access new opportunities and get where they want to be in life.
Kelsea, this is Mike, and thank you again for being on with us today. It's super flattering knowing that this is highlight of your day. I got to know what else happened in your day to make us a highlight. However, we are truly honored to have you on. When we did our kind of our prep call with you, there's so many fascinating topics that I want to jump into with you. But I love the and I'm going to define first gen conversation from the kind of first to go to maybe a university or college level and kind of the achievement side for first gen. Can you tell us a little bit about, again, filling in your background about that being first gen and what that meant to your family as a whole?
Yeah, so many people have different definitions of what it means to be first gen. So some people think that if you are the first person in your family to live in a certain country. So, for example, my grandparents were all born in different countries in a sense. So on my dad's side, they were born in Haiti, and on my mom's side, my grandparents were born in Jamaica and Cuba. So technically, I guess you'd say my mother is first gen because my father was actually born in Haiti. And then other people might take the first gen definition to mean, okay, well, if you achieved a level of schooling that some of the people who came before you did not achieve, then that would also qualify you as being a first gen individual. One awesome thing I would say is that my mother did go to law school. And so she really gave me a lot of guidance. But then there were also things on my dad's side of the family that they've imparted to me, which may not have been from having gone to law school, but just that experience of being hardworking and sort of teaching me how to stay strong, you know, when dealing with adversity and things of that nature. So my experience of sort of bringing something new to the family is sort of more so on my father's side, where I was able to go to law school and get that firm job and sort of just kind of pursue my dreams in this way. I think even with some of the experiences that I've had, I don't know if I would particularly qualify it all the way as being first gen, but I think just the aspect of having my grandparents being born in different countries, and then my parents sort of working their hardest here in America, but then me trying to forge newer opportunities for our family and create new pathways. I have 3 younger sisters, and so for me, my life has really been focused on, you know, what else can I teach them? What else can I show them? How can I help them access their dreams or push forward to their goals and be kind of like a stepping stone for them? So honestly, I sort of try to lead my life in a way where, yes, I want to help my sisters, but then I kind of treat a lot of different strangers like they're my sisters too. Or, you know, how can I help them do what they want to do in life? Or how can I be of service to them in that experience? So I think just with the way that my life has been, there have been some opportunities that maybe my family didn't really know were possible. So I know when I started working at my law firm and, you know, I shared the salary that I'd be making with my dad, he was so shocked, actually. He was just like, you know, I don't even know people who are making that money, you know, from going to a job every single day, you know, and I think that he was shocked to find out that information. And that was something that was super impactful for me because it showed me that, wow, I'm doing something more than my dad thought was possible. And I'm really, really going for greater goals. And I feel like I want a lot of people to have that feeling, no matter what family they're in, whether they are first generation or they're not first generation. I want them to kind of take it farther than the generation that they sort of have come from, if that makes sense.
Well, so what did your dad say when you left that salary,
He
that
was,
salaried position?
he was definitely shocked and confused. He did not understand why I would want to do that. You know, I think for both of us, I had felt like the job that I had gotten was the dream. You know, we all felt like that. And so I think that there was fear. You know, now that it's been more than a year, there's some time that has passed. We've been able to deconstruct that a little bit. And so I think what it really came from was just fear of worrying that, you know, maybe I wouldn't be as, what's the word, taken care of. You know, I think for my dad, this really meant safety, and it meant that I wouldn't have to struggle. And I think he has really wanted me to stay away from the struggle as much as possible. And I think I just had to really explain to him, like, Dad, you know, I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity, but just because I'm leaving that salary doesn't mean that I don't ever want to make that again. It just means that I'm going on to a different path, and I still think I'll be successful with that. And I think he finally was able to come around when he started seeing the value in the work that I'm doing now. Because when I first started to talk to him about, oh, I'm going to try to do this diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and trust me, it is valuable and people really care about it, it was really hard for him to conceptualize that, because usually he's sort of focused on thinking, okay, lawyer, doctor, engineer, you know, these are the specific types of careers that you go towards when you want to be successful in that sense. And so I really had to work on broadening that perspective of what it means to be successful. And that's what I love doing with our clients too, on a daily basis.
You know, one of the things that we had talked about was Well, I mean, there's this concept in America that's based on rugged individualism, right? Like everyone thinks that, the way to gain wealth or, make it in this world is through this, you work hard and you're self-made.
Yeah.
And, the self-made versus not conversation seems to be this like American ideal. But I
Yeah.
mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what does self-made mean? And like, how does that play out, especially for underrepresented communities?
Yeah, so I don't understand what the obsession is with the concept of being self-made. I think the beauty of it to most people is that they can really express how independent they are, and they can really share this idea of I did it all by myself and I was able to make it. And so, that's like my honor. That's a badge of honor. That's an achievement. But I feel that it can still be an achievement even if you don't just do it on your own by yourself. I feel like there have been many different things that I've been able to achieve in this life, and I would never call myself self-made because there's just so many sacrifices that were made for me to get here. There are so many people who have given me information, they've given me insight, or they have really set me up in a direction to help me push forward. And so I feel like it would it would just be a disservice to all of those people who have helped me or who have sacrificed for me to have me call myself self-made. I feel like I'm way more interested in talking about how mentorship and other people sharing insight with you in those coffees or those, I guess now we can call them Zoom sessions, where you're kind of just meeting up with people and talking to people about their experiences and learning from that. I think that that is a really awesome way to help people figure out what other opportunities are out there and then get some steps or some ideas on how they can push forward with those.
Well,
I
what's interesting. Oh, sorry, Mike. Well,
No,
I had a thought about this because it's within this conversation that you often find a lot of people who question the struggle that the Black community has had. The people who don't necessarily believe in racism or systemic inequalities. A lot of times their argument is within this self-made ideal, right? Like they're like, well, I had to work hard to get to where I am.
Yeah.
Why can't they? Right? Like, and it is such kind of a baseline reaction. But to your point, like, it's an ideal that unless we talk about and understand like where that ideal comes from, it's not actually possible for everybody.
It's definitely not possible for everybody, Yubi. You're totally right. I think for me, realizing that is what pushed me to start my company. A lot of people always ask, well, why is it called Grow by Three? And so in the short version is that the three stands for the three things that people usually will need in order to achieve something new. So that first thing is insight. They need the information to just know that something's possible and what the steps might be in order to achieve it. And then they need to understand it. So the second thing is understanding, to make sure that those steps and that information is clear to you in terms of how it applies to your very own life. And then the third thing is evolution, in terms of every day realizing that you need to take some steps or some new action in order to get closer and closer to those dreams. And so a lot of times people are missing the insight. They might have the drive to go forward for whatever it is that they want, but they may not know how to get there, or they may not know how to deal with some of the other things that are happening in their lives so that they could focus on what their goals actually are. And so I think for me, I realized that, oh my goodness, there's so many different things that I've experienced that if somebody hadn't talked to me about and told me it's out there and it's possible, I never would have known to even go after it. So like even thinking about law firms, when I was in law school and even in college, I had no idea that there were large law firms that would pay you six figures as soon as you graduate from law school. My thought process of the legal field was pretty much oh, you could sort of, be a defense attorney, or you could work for the state, or, you can be a prosecutor. That was really the way that I was thinking about the law at that time. And so it wasn't until I got to my school and they were sort of introducing me to all of these different types of lawyers, and I'm meeting corporate attorneys, and I'm, seeing what that life looks like, and I'm talking to people who are explaining to me how you can actually make it there. That's when it totally changed my perspective and really put me onto something new. And so I really think that in order for people to even try to make it happen, yeah, some of us are lucky, some of us are blessed to have resources or to have people in our lives who can talk to us about these things, but everybody does not have that same experience.
Guys, I so enjoy listening to you and how you got here, but the wisdom that you're bringing, this collective wisdom, so this that you now want to impart on others to help bridge the gap. But your model is very much an empowering model, and I really, really like that. It really resonates with me, Kelsey. And but can you help describe your model a bit more? Again, this fallacy that there's really not enough of a diverse pipeline out there, and how your organization actually can help bridge the gap for some of these organizations to tap into some of the most amazing talent out there that really is diverse.
Yeah, so with some of our services, we're working directly one-on-one with individuals who want to access those new opportunities, but they aren't necessarily sure. Maybe they're not really clear on what the roadmap needs to be in order to get there. So we have like roadmap packages and narrative packages where we help professionals sort of figure out, hey, I've done a lot of amazing things, but how do I create this narrative to make it clear to anybody that I'm talking to, or even an employer, to make it clear why I should be working at this organization, or why I should get an opportunity. So sometimes that even leads us into, working with them on their resumes, cover letters, developing their interview skills and things of that nature. And so on that end, we are working to sort of help people develop professionally so that they can access those opportunities in the way that they would like to. And most of our clients are coming from a diverse background. As it relates to the organizations, we offer consulting services that work directly with people who are at executive levels in the company. We also offer services directly to employees who need maybe professional development in the organization itself, or sometimes we're really focusing heavily on the diversity, equity, and inclusion aspect, in the sense that we are doing workshops and trainings to help the environment be a little bit more hospitable to people from diverse backgrounds, or also increasing that level of inclusion so that more work can get done, the team can be more engaged with each other, and also that they can drive up those retention rates. As it relates to pipelines, we also offer consulting services where we help organizations pinpoint where they can build a pipeline and develop the programming for them to do so. So just from my work itself, I've recognized that there really is not a pipeline problem in the sense that there aren't enough diverse professionals. I really believe that it depends on what you're looking for and what your programs are asking for. So in a sense, when you think about hiring, or you think about admissions, and you think about a number of these different spaces, we're usually focusing on numbers like GPAs, standardized test scores, or we're looking at these people's resumes and wondering, okay, what's the best name that they have on here to validate their experience. And so I think it requires us to take a look at, what do our programs look like right now? What are the hiring processes looking like right now? What do we need to change so that we can move or remove a little bit of bias out of the situation, so that we can help other people advance, or so that we can bring more people in the door, because numbers and, perfect places for where people may have worked in the past, that's not always going to tell you the worth that somebody can bring to an organization or to a school or things of that nature. So there really isn't a lack of diverse talent. It's just, what ways are we using to judge talent? And are we judging this talent in a way that's in line with bias? And so a lot of times, if we're removing some of those barriers, we will find that there are a lot more talented people out there.
I love that. That's so powerful. Like, that's been one of my biggest frustrations when I, have been working this diversity, equity, and inclusion space, is that I've heard so many companies say, oh, it's a pipeline problem. Like we just don't have enough people applying, and like we don't have enough people, there's just not enough people from these underrepresented groups, like, that exist with the degrees that we want. And so really helping organizations rethink through, like, what are they measuring? What are they looking for?
Yeah.
It's not just about like you said, like the names of the things on their resume. Is it like, is there a company they recognize and therefore that person is better than a company that they haven't heard of?
Exactly. And there's other things too. I mean, you could definitely find diverse talent that has the school that you're looking for, the GPA you're looking for, the standardized test score you're looking for, and companies that you're looking for. But you may not be getting those resumes because you have to ask, well, where are we looking for our talent? That's also a really big question to ask, because if you're sort of focusing all of your recruiting efforts in places where you're less likely to find that kind of talent, you have to make a change in that area. I know some people, one of the coolest things that I've been hearing about people doing is, including HBCUs as part of their recruitment strategy, in terms of actually going to visit these schools or building relationships with these schools so that they can connect with students. And for anybody who's listening who does not know what an HBCU is, that's a historically Black college and university. So that's just one way out of many that companies and organizations can really find the talent that they're looking for, with the standards that they're looking for. And then you're actually sort of finding an environment where you'll be able to connect with those people. So it sometimes does require you to be a little bit more intentional than you might be, but that's a small price to pay for the opportunity to create those pipelines where people are having the opportunity to connect with your organization, learn about it, apply, and potentially even get the job.
I mean, that this whole conversation was just a mic drop for me. That was, I mean, yeah, like you're speaking our language, Kelsey. And I think the big thing to me, and what it seems like through your work and just everything that you've done, has been intention, right? And you've, because I was reading something where you had a viral tweet and about graduating law, and that's a whole other, like, how do you make a tweet go viral? But this was, I mean, this was amazing. Like, it was based on graduating law school, passing the bar exam in 2 states, and having finished undergrad. Was that all in just 3 years?
So I finished undergrad in 3 years, and then after law school is when I sat for 2 bar exams. So it didn't happen in a span of 3 years, but the timeline, I did try to get a lot done, in a short span of time. And I'm really grateful that I was able to do that. And again, it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm the one who studied and I got the grades, and so it's me, I'm perfect, I did it. Absolutely not. It's really an honor and a blessing, and honestly an ode to all of the people who've supported me over the years, all of the people who've been there for me, who've motivated me, who've given me insight. And I remember even when I was deciding whether or not I should take 2 bar exams, I was on the phone with multiple people, just trying to get different perspectives. And it's really just taught me, you need to hear things from other people. You need that insight from other people. And so even now we have a mentorship program where we're working with over 50 participants, and they're all around the country. So sometimes I'm like, oh man, I gotta be really conscious about these time zones, because we have all of these participants, and some of them are in high school, college, and then the mentors that are serving them are graduate students or working professionals. And so we're trying to teach them things and give them insight from a young age so that they can start thinking about things a little bit more clearly. Like, there's some students who had never actually emailed a professional contact before, who've never really sent out that email, or they've never sent a calendar invite, or they aren't sure what you're supposed to talk about with a professional. And so we're just so excited that we have this opportunity to start giving out this insight earlier than later, so that people can start developing at higher levels professionally, and really bring their goals closer and closer to fruition.
It's so amazing. It's like, this is such a line of thinking, and the work that you're doing, that it can change the course of people's careers, right? Because I mean, what you're saying is we're dispelling this self-made myth, and it takes a community. It takes a team of people, for managers specifically. It's like, how do I build a better team, and how do I make sure that they're successful? Well, it's this intentional way of helping each other and realizing that it's just not, I love, this is such a big thing that I hope our audience takes to heart.
And also, Kelsey, to follow up, I agree. I'm super enthusiastic about this concept and this empowerment model, and the fact that you're taking like the wisdom of mentorship and support to the next level. I'd love, what's your crystal ball? I'd love to know, like, what you are aiming to accomplish in the next 5 or 10 years.
That is such an amazing question, which I don't know if I've thought about it as far out, which is funny because I'm usually always asking clients, hey, what do you want to do in the next 5 years? What are you looking to do, 10 years from now? So I need to ask myself that. I think I might have to be a little bit general on this one. And my answer is, I want to still be helping people. I want to be working with people to help them achieve their dreams. I think for me, like I had mentioned, I got my dream job at that time, and I wouldn't have got it without support from others. And so I don't know what it is. I just have this desire to just give back as much as I possibly can. And it's very fulfilling for me to do that. I think I want to just continue doing it on a larger scale. So right now, the mentorship program, we're at 50 plus participants. I'm hoping to, make that number even larger. We have clients that we're working with to develop pipeline programs, and we're hoping to develop even more pipeline programs. The consulting services, we just want to keep helping as many companies as we can make their environments a lot more safe, honestly, like increase psychological safety for everybody involved. I want everybody that we work with to know that if you're working with us, our goal is really just to make your life better. And so with that said, my 5-year or 10-year goal is to keep impacting lives, keep making people's lives better, and just doing that steadfastly and staying committed to that goal.
Kelsey, this is amazing. And this has been an amazing conversation. I think there's just so many tactical things folks listening to the podcast can walk away with. Obviously, we were meant to connect because we absolutely 100% share the same mission. Mike's doing the same thing with his community. Yubi and I are doing it with our communities as well. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and bringing your wisdom and insight for all of our listeners.
No problem. This has been awesome for me too. I'm so grateful that I've had the chance not only to talk on the podcast, but also to connect with you all even before this. And I'm really looking forward to staying in touch. If anybody does have questions and they want to follow up, feel free to go to our website and reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk, always happy to brainstorm, and just knowing that I found a community with similar ideas and similar values, that's amazing to me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else we can do.
Thank you, and we'll definitely put your contact information up on the YouTube post that we'll put up. And to all of our listeners, thank you again for joining us. You can check out this episode on chooseinclusion.com. We'll also have it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thank you, Yubi and Mike, and we will be back for another episode in the next couple days.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kelsey.
Thanks, Kelsey.